Hey guys, how's it hanging? Mark here from Okitog, SeaWorld Earth, and today we've come to one of my favourite places in the north of Okinawa because it's a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. A few clouds starting to appear. We've got this beautiful rocky area behind me here. You can see the waves are picking up and they're splashing all over it. Again, we're going to be shooting long exposure, but with a bit of a difference because today we're going to be stacking NDs to get crazy long exposures. You may remember on a recent video linked up here where I was saying I shoot normally at 1.6 seconds to get that really nice movement in the water. Well, today we're going to go extreme and we're going to look at trying to get somewhere between 7, 8, 9, even 10 minutes of exposure in order to really flatten out the ocean, create awesome smoky water effects and just do something a bit different. So we're going to be going crazy with ND 1000s, 400s, etc, and let's hopefully get some great results. Okay, so shooting this kind of imagery really brings up a few elements that are otherwise different than when you're using just regular NDs and you're doing quite short exposures. Okay, the one thing, there's a little bit of wind today, which is why I've got my lav mic on. There's a little bit of wind today, and if you're in an area like this where you've got quite excited ocean, quite a lot of spray, quite a lot of waves, the wind is going to carry that spray, so you really got to be careful where you put your camera in order that that spray doesn't carry in the wind and obviously cover your glass. So that's one of the compositional things that you need to be aware of. And the other thing, if you are going to be close to a relatively rough ocean, again, as always, what I normally prescribe to anybody is to just sit for a while, check out the ocean, but just watch the sets of waves as they come in, because eventually you'll get like what I call the king sets, which are the big sets, and that will show you the extent of where the waves are acting on that immediate area that you want to work in. So just be very wary of that. You can't mess around with Mother Nature, especially not the ocean, one of the strongest forces on our planet. So as beautiful as she is, she can also pack a bit of a punch, so just be wary of that. Alright, so I'm going to find a place to set up for competition, and from there we'll take it and I'll go through the steps in order to get some crazy long exposures. Well, Houston, we are set to go. I just set the camera up there just quickly without explaining anything. Don't worry, when we move later on to a much more quieter, subdued, relaxed location, I'll go through every step, show you all of the little things close up so you have a better understanding of what it is I've done. But at the moment, just to quickly go over it, we've got the camera set up as normal, the EOS 5DSR, fitted with the Lauer 12mm f2.8 zero distortion, and on that I've got the filter holder. Instead of normally running with the 2 slots for the 2 filters, I've adjusted it and put on a 3rd slot so I can run 3 filters, because I still want to have a graduated density filter on the horizon, just to mask that off a little bit and hopefully not overexpose it. We do have some wispy little clouds in the sky, so hopefully that will create some kind of vibrance in the sky, some kind of dynamic in the sky as well. And what we've got on the camera is we have a soft grad 0.6, so a 2-stop on the sky, and in front of the lens we've got 2 solid NDs, an ND 400 closest to the lens, and then on top of that an ND 128. So I'll do the math and you'll see it along the bottom of the screen a bit later on, or right now. But crazy amounts of ND, and what that basically means is that my exposure is going to have to be super long. In this case, it's going to be about 5 minutes. All right, I'm on f/16 ISO 100, focus to infinity, and with the direct sun, it's almost midday. We should be able to get away with a 5-minute exposure, and you can see how the waves are breaking behind me. So all of these rocks are just going to be absolutely magical, and there's some big old waves coming in now. check this one out. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and take the shot. Obviously we need to have a third-party piece of equipment in order to trip the trigger trip the exposure for 5 minutes, and in my case you'll be able to see a little bit later on when I show you in clearer detail the Miops Trigger, which is a multifunctional trigger that I use for super long exposures like this, and all of that runs quite handy on an app via my iPhone. Okay, easy. Right, so let's go ahead and take the shot and we'll see what we get. Some big waves coming in now. I think this is the biggest one I've seen so far. Hopefully it's going to have a good effect on the camera. Woo-hoo-hoo. Wow, look at that, man. Okay, I'm probably just going to wait for one more photo. It's always just one more photo, but you can tell when the big sets are going to start coming in. I'm going to leave the setup the same. F16 now, 1 minute and 30-second exposure, ND 128, ND 32, and a premium hard grad 0.6. because our horizon is completely uninterrupted. We've got a slightly downward facing composition because there's nothing in the sky, and I'm taking up most of the real estate of the resolution, as it were, with the area of interest, which are the rocks and all of these areas around the rocks where the water's going to flow. So let's wait for the waves to pick up and we'll get another shot before moseying south and taking life a bit easier, and I'll be able to go into greater detail with regards to the equipment and how I set everything up. Cool beans. Here come the waves. Here we go. Well, if I dare say so myself, that came out absolutely spectacular. And it's such a shame to leave such an awesome location, but I owe it to you guys to just go through the equipment and the technique that I'm using in an environment that isn't so dangerous either for myself or for the cameras. So let's strip down the gear and head south. Look at this! How awesome is this spot? Well, that was a bit of fun, wasn't it? We've actually left the north of Okinawa now, and in an instant we found ourselves pretty much towards the south of the island now. You can see also that the cloud has decided to descend over us again. But what I want to do is just along this beach here, I just want to go and check out a funky little tree where we can sit. I want to take a photograph of it, and from there I'll be able to explain a bit more about the equipment and the setup that I'm using for super long exposures. I'm going to be filming on a different camera. I've nearly filled up the memory card on this GoPro, so don't worry if there's a slight shift in quality, but at the end of the day it's the content that you're after. Okay, so cool beans, I will speak to you in a different format very, very shortly. This is what I came to see. What a crazy looking tree. So I'm going to have fun, take a few shots of this guy and see what we can get. This is awesome. I've got a couple of ideas to get some really funky looking shots here. Okay, and what you'll notice is that normally I just have 2 filters, but now I've put a third slot in there for a third filter, so I can stack 2 NDs and still have a grad on the outside here. Okay, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Given the fact that I'm shooting a 12mm lens, in this case the Lauer f2.8 zero distortion, I'm using 3 filters. Okay, normally I can just get away with using 2 filters without getting any vignetting or any encroachment from the filter holder in the final image. But because now we've added another filter, the problem, well, one of the problems I'm going to get is there's no getting away from it, that I am going to get some kind of like dark lines around the edges and especially in the corners. It's because I'm using a 12mm, I can't zoom through, and so you've built up another layer of filters on the outside, so that is going to encroach on the field of view. So very, very important in this kind of scenario that when you look to compose your image, that you do so knowing that you're probably going to have to crop a little bit from the sides and corners in post-production. Okay, so go ahead and compose the shot, and just bearing in mind that that is going to be an issue when you come to edit. Okay, well, I'm now happy with this composition, so I'm going to go ahead and start putting my filters in. First off, I'm going to put the graduated, the premium soft grad 0.9. Okay, so 3 stop on the sky. I might render this image out as black and white because the clouds have come across, made it a bit moody. There's not a lot of light around, so it might be nice to render that in black and white, but I'll see in the edit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my grad filter in first. I'll just check where the graduation point is, and I like that. It's dark at the top. Okay, very, very cool. Okay, because it's a manual lens, I'll set everything that I want now. Okay, now we're good to go, and now I will introduce the two neutral density filters that I'm going to use on this shoot. Okay, and I've elected to shoot the what is it, an ND64 and an ND32. Okay, I'll do the math, and that'll be appearing somewhere along the bottom of your screen any moment now. I'll do the math and tell you what that total ND is. Okay, what I normally do, just as a pet thing or my own personal thing, is if I'm going to shoot 2 ND filters, I normally put the strongest one closest to the camera. I mean, the camera's got to look through the same amount of glass anyway, so it shouldn't really be an issue, but that's just a pet thing of mine. I'll always put the strongest one next to the camera, so in this case the 64 is the first one. It occupies the first slot closest to the lens, and then the 32 on the outside, with then the grad on the outside of that. Okay, now when we're doing super long exposures, you've really got to be careful with regards to the potential for light leakage. Okay, light coming in through nooks and crannies within your camera rig. One of the places that can come in is in between your filters. Okay, especially if you've got the sun right above you. Sunlight can go into this gap here and bounce around between the filters and cause some kind of reflections to appear in your final image. That's never a good thing. So you always try and take care of that. It's not so much of an issue now. The sun's kind of legged it, it's done a runner, and we're just left with a grey sky. A little bit, oh, saying that, look, the sun, a little bit of sun pops out in the background there. Always quite nice to see that. I wonder if we're going to get a sunset. But anyway, I will continue. So yeah, that's just one area to take care of. Okay, what I do sometimes is I've got a little elasticated kind of band that I put around here. I haven't really found a very, very good shroud as yet, but what I have been using up until now, especially in very bright conditions, is I'll just completely shroud the camera. I'll put this over my, it's a neck warmer, don't really need the Minocchio hour. I'll put this over my camera completely. There's a pull toggle there, pull that nice and tight, And like the old cameras, the cameras of old that you see in old westerners or western movies, when the photographer gets in underneath his black kind of cape, as it were, and then all I do at the back is I'll just close that with a pinch clip or with a peg. But again, like I said, today we're not really going to have to worry too much about that because we're pretty much in a very dark area, so that's not really too much of an issue. I really only just do that when I have a very, very bright situation at hand and I need to address that. Okay, but for this shoot I don't think we're going to have too many problems. One thing I do though is I've got this black rag, and all I'll do is I'll tie that around the camera body. The reason why I do that is because this lens is not weather sealed, okay, and it's not for anything else other than just making sure that if I'm not using the shroud, I put this around there just to black off that, or just to seal, as it were, the lens joining the camera, that area there, so there's no possibility of leakage there. Okay. The other thing that is very important also is your eyepiece on your camera. Okay, always be sure to cover that. Again, normally that's covered with the shroud, but if I'm not using the shroud, my best friend, Scotch tape. Okay, all I'll do is I'll just whack off a length of that, put it over the eyepiece, okay, and job done. Obviously when the shoot's over I take that off. I have to clean it, otherwise I'll be waxing my eyebrows the next time I try to look through the eyepiece if it hasn't been cleaned, so always be wary of that. But that now is the camera for the situation that I'm in now. I'm happy with the fact that I'm not going to get any light leaks in this scenario because of the position of the sun, because of the way we've got the camera situated now. Okay, so now comes the time to go and grab the image. But because we're going to be working in bulb mode, I'm going to need a third-party trigger, and I've got this one here. This is one that I use and have been using for quite some time now. This is the Miops Trigger. Okay, and that just sits in the hot shoe of my camera. Okay, you've got the on-off button here. Turn that on, and it fires up. Basically, it's a multifunctional trigger, so it's got parameters for HDR, for time-lapse, for lightning. You can set up an infrared gate with a little laser pointer if you want. That just points into this area here. I've done loads of videos on this. The best video, or the most watched video about the Miops Trigger, I'll link it in the top corner there. And I use this as basically just as a timer, as a timer trigger. And the good thing about it is it works with my smart device. Okay, so I'll turn on my smart device, go into my apps, hit onto the Miops Trigger app, and there it is, pops up on the screen. And now here's all of the parameters, or the different ways that I can fire or use the trigger. I'm going to be using it on timed release. So if I go into timed release, you'll see there, that was the last shot that I done, 1:33, and then I just go around this dial here to change the exposure time, and when I'm ready, press start, and it sends it to the camera. So works very well, very, very happy with it, and it's what we'll be using today. Clouds have started to come across the sky, which is awesome. I'm going to start off with let's say a 2-minute exposure. So I'll just dial that into my Miops, hit start, and now the camera is taking the shot. So we'll see what happens. We've got some really nice clouds going across the top of the sky there. So hopefully we'll be quids in for a cool shot. And I can put came out looking awesome, all right, and I think given the fact that it's starting to cloud in quite dark, I think that's going to be it for today. Had a fantastic adventure up by those rocks. Got some stunning imagery for that, and again, this weird looking tree. What a funky composition that is. So there's going to be more content on the way. I'm heading out Saturday to shoot something to do with snakes and landscape photography. I'm not going to give too much away though, so please do hit that like button, subscribe, smash that notifications bell so you'll be updated as and when new content is available, and I'm hoping that it won't be too long before the next video. So take care guys and girls, and I will chat to you soon. Have a good one.